There we go. Okay, now go.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good morning. So I'm Nancy Webert, co-chair of workshops for the Minnesota Watercolor Society, along with Kelly Kastner. And we welcome you to this workshop. I will say I may be cut off suddenly here. Unfortunately, my building is having its Wi-Fi and in-house phone system changed at 10 o'clock this morning. There are trucks outside, so I'm assuming that is going to happen. So anyway, Minnesota Watercolor Society welcomes all of you. I have to say we've got, I think, 5 participants today from around the country. So welcome to you. I'm also happy that we have some Minnesota residents, but who do not live in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area and who are also able to attend without having to come into the cities and find lodging, etc. So it's exciting to see you online with us today. I started following Kim about 1.5 years ago. I followed her on social media after Pam Wenger invited me to watch her demo with the Pennsylvania Watercolor Society. And I immediately thought, well, this would be a wonderful workshop for us because we haven't had one for a while with animals and birds, at least one sponsored by the Minnesota Watercolor Society. I think most of you already heard Kim say she did not major in art in college. She was a psychology major, and when she graduated, she didn't care for being in that field. And then she became a manicurist. Obviously, she wasn't happy there either. But meanwhile, she started taking art classes, and that is what has brought her to where she is today. She's a signature member of AWS, TWSA, and a whole line of other impressive societies. So her teaching schedule is busy. And fortunately, we contacted her shortly after I watched her demo. And so she is here with us today. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you very much. I only see you large. Are you seeing me large on your end when I speak?
Yes, I see you large.
Okay, good. Okay, as long as you can see me large.
Yeah, we see you.
So I'm Kim Johnson, Neckman, whatever they call me these days. I won all of my signatures through my last name Johnson, and then I was married. I got married almost 18 years ago, and I thought, oh, do I really want to go through all the hassle of changing all those signatures over to that other last name and change my signature and all that kind of good stuff? And so now sometimes these societies go ahead and change the name to Neckman instead of Johnson, and I'm fine with it, but I still sign my paintings Kim Johnson. Can you hear me okay? Should I be turning up my volume or anything?
Sounds good to me, Kim.
Okay, great. So I feel like maybe some of you have taken from me before, and I always try to include these shorebirds because I feel that I either do it at the beginning of a class or at the end of a class, because I always feel like it loosens us up to realize we can paint this. We don't have to be precise. It just kind of opens our mind to different ideas. And sometimes I do it at the end of the class because then I think it'll help loosen them back up so that they can proceed to paint outside of class. And I know that sometimes that can be very difficult to just get started. And that's what this particular painting is really about. I'm going to share my screen now so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, can you see that all right? Do I need to make any adjustments?
Looks good.
No, we can see it.
Okay, good. Okay, but one thing I do want to talk about here before we get going is if you guys could all mute yourself so that we don't hear all of your background stuff, that would be great. And if you have a question, I would really appreciate it if you just unmute yourself, ask the question at the time. If we wait till the end of the day, I will not remember what my thought process was. So if that is okay for everybody, that works the best for me. So where shall I start? I always start with a little bit about my equipment. This is my palette that I use. It's from Shy's Art, SHYART art. .com, I think is how she sells it. I think she sells it on Etsy, and I think sometimes Cheap Joe's carries it. It's I don't know, $50 or $60 for this palette. I like it because when you're traveling, it has some fairly deep wells. Sometimes I don't care for it because I end up filling them up a little bit, and then I have a couple of colors that will grow mold. And especially down in this area, it doesn't take very long for the mold to grow. So, but this is my palette. This is the only one that I use if I'm painting a very large painting or if I'm painting one of these smaller ones. One of the reasons why I got started using a smaller palette was because with the bigger ones, I have a tendency to use a lot of water. And it was like, okay, if I have a smaller palette, maybe I'll use less water. When I was taking classes, they were amazed I could paint a painting because I used so much water, and then, we set it down and we pick it back up, set it down, pick it back up. But if we can learn to leave it alone, put some paint on our paper, that is going to be the best solution for some of this. So that's that. I use the silver black velvet brushes. This is the 3000S series. They're not terribly expensive, but they always carry a wonderful point. You can see that. One of my favorite ones also is thought I had it sitting out here, I'm sorry. It's the small jumbo. Oh, jumbo. Where are we? No, don't tell me I didn't bring, oh, here it is. Thank goodness. Oh, I don't know if I could have painted without it. My small jumbo. And this one is considered the 3025S jumbo round. It's a small. I use this one a lot as well because I can still get a nice point on it, but I can also flatten it out and use it like a flat brush to get a really nice edge if I want.
Kim, so somebody's asked what the name of the palette is again.
Yes, Shy's Art, SHYSART.
I put a link in the chat.
Oh, great. Thank you. So, and I used to use very, very expensive brushes. I used to use the Raphael 8404, which are about anywhere between $300 and $400, depending on, I don't know, the season, the year, whatever. And these are every bit as wonderful as that brush. So, and you can get the whole set basically for well under that $300, $400 range. And I have them all. I have call them the cats, where they're very flat up here and then they come up into a point. I like that too. But my tendency is to use the 16 or the small round jumbo. Those are the two of my favorite. And if I'm going to use masking fluid, I use the PBO. I like it because I can remove it with my finger if I want. The one issue I do find with the PBO, it has a tint to it. So whenever you're painting, you have to remember that those parts are white. They're not a light blue-green color. And sometimes I have a tendency to paint to that rather than it being white. So I try to stay away from it, but you know, when you start using a little bit of masking fluid, a little bit works, and then a whole lot seems like a whole lot better. And when you take it off, it's a whole lot worse. So, and I recently in this last year and a half, I've decided I do not have to be a purist. I can use white paint if I want to. There are only a couple of societies that if you are submitting to those places that do not allow white paint. And you just have to remember you cannot submit to those shows with those paintings. Make a little notation on the back of your painting that you've used white, and that's all you have to do is remember that. Most every other society allows it. TWSA is one that does not, and neither does Watercolor West. I don't know, there are probably many more, but those are the ones that I always submit to. So those are the ones I know about. And also, I've used the white M. Graham. I don't think I have any of the other really white ones, but Daniel Smith has come out with these watercolor sticks. And these are fun because you can draw with them a little bit. You can dip them in water and draw some more. You can take your brush and get some white. These whites don't ever seem to really cover, say, white. The color will bleed back through. But recently, when I was in South Dakota teaching a class, wonderful group, they only allow this eco line, liquid watercolor, if you're going to use white. And I have to tell you that this is really a very nice white. It seems to cover well. It's very nice. I like this one a lot. So it's the eco line and it's liquid watercolor 100.
I'm sorry, Eco, what was the last part?
Eco line.
Thank you.
Yes, it's all one word. I just ordered mine off of Amazon because I wanted it the next day. Also, sometimes if I have within the Daniel Smith, I've tried their iridescent colors. And the only one that I'm really exceptionally fond of is the electric blue. It is iridescent electric blue. I use this one a lot, especially when I'm doing these birds. And I'm sorry that this was not on my supply list, but as I said earlier, when there were just a few people on, I only tell you guys the colors that I use on a very regular basis because it's very easy to go bankrupt on colors. And I hate for you to run out to grab something and you hate it. So this is one that I really like. The other ones I didn't really care for as much. So I found through Holbein has an iridescent medium. So I can just add a little bit of this to whatever I want, whatever color, if I want to use it. I don't use this one a whole lot. I think I've probably given more of it away than I've used, but it's fun to have when you want something a little different. And again, I don't think that those are, that these iridescent colors, I don't know that you can actually submit them to some of the, like, Watercolor West again and transparent, because I think that this is an opaque medium, but don't quote me on that. So I did that. Let's see. Any other pertinent information about my equipment? Okay. So, I know Nancy started to give some of my background information to you, but that wasn't the whole story. I was a manicurist for 25 years and I really did enjoy doing it. It allowed me to take classes in watercolor, and I met lots of people I never would have been able to meet at any other point probably in my life. So I really did enjoy being a manicurist, and that is how I put myself through college. After I graduated with my psychology degree, my point was to go on and be like a child psychologist or something. And I realized I was already a psychologist being a manicurist. And I thought, I'm not starting all over with that. That's not happening. So I thought the only thing that I ever wanted to do was paint. And my high school art teacher was a very well-known watercolorist. He'd been published many times. And so I really felt like that was the only medium out there. I didn't really even consider acrylic or oils or any of those things. On occasion, I think I felt like maybe I could do some pastel, but I didn't, so I don't. And it sure seems like it's taken me a lifetime to figure out watercolor, and I'm still figuring it out. And I read books, and I realize that some of the thought process that some of these artists have that have a background in art is so completely different from mine. And that's okay. We're all going to approach this a different way. There's no right or wrong way, period. Whatever, however you can get it on here, get it, just do it. So I, like I said, like to start off with something that's a little bit more splashy and fun for you to realize there are many ways of approaching a painting. And that is what seems to be the hardest, is getting started. Getting started is difficult. When I first started doing this, it was with a painting of a white lab and a golden retriever sitting together. And I had this fabulous drawing on my piece of paper. And I thought, oh, I don't want to ruin this with paint. What if I ruin it? And I thought, you know what? I have to just do something. So I literally just started throwing paint at it. And probably within about a half hour, 45 minutes, I had the painting almost done. And that painting went on to give me my first award at the Transparent Watercolor Society. So that was, and I still love that painting, and I still try to replicate that process. So it seems like even though I did it once, I have some successes with it, and other times not so much. And it's okay. Every time I pick up a piece of paper with my paint, my drawing on it, to me, it is always an experiment. I have no idea if it's going to turn out. And so that's why I like to tell my students, I could fail here today. And that has to be okay. Because if I'm not supposed to fail, then you guys can't fail either. You guys have to be perfect. So having said that, this is about just having fun, getting started. And hopefully I will show you 2 or 3 different ways to get started on a painting, because my goal is for you to continue painting after the class. So I'm going to get started with this. And I have a tendency also to go to my same familiar colors. And so I really was thinking about how can I do something a little bit different today with my colors so it doesn't seem like it's the same painting over and over again. So I decided to choose, again, these aren't really on the supply list because I just don't use them all that often. And I always feel like with these paintings, it's fun to experiment with colors. This is a scrap piece of paper. All of these little birds that I do are on what I would consider not successful paintings on 300-pound paper. This one happens to be Arches cold press, but I also use Fabriano hot press 300 pound. I don't think you can really do this with 140 pound. I think I have to stabilize this and make sure that it doesn't move. There it goes. Okay. So this really is on a scrap piece of paper. All of them are. I don't do any of these really that are on a piece of paper that don't have something on the back side of them. I had all this paper, all of these bad paintings on these papers, and I thought, what could I do with this paper? And it kind of hit me. Some of them were odd shaped. Some of them are only 7 inches by 30 inches. So I just vary the size of my birds. When I decided to do birds, I thought, oh, great, I'm gonna have to go out there and take 10,000 more pictures And when I got looking at my reference, I realized I already had all these photographs of birds. So I didn't have to. I was very fortunate. And I love to take pictures of these little shorebirds. They're funny down on the shore. They're always racing into the water, away from the wave, and into the water, away from the wave. And so I think that that's what just got me attracted to them anyway. And so I have a million pictures of those. So I'm going to get started, and I will try to keep my palette somewhat handy here. And if you guys are not seeing exactly what you want to see on it, just tell me and I'll move it. I'll lean up a little bit. Otherwise, I'll be covering my painting. So I have decided I am going to use some turquoise cobalt, and I'm making myself a puddle. This is on something else because I don't have this one on my palette. I'm going to use a little of my cobalt teal. And I decided I'm going to use my cat orange. That was one thing too about my brands of paint. Lots of my paints are the M grams because I've won so many of the sets of them. I have a lot of it at home. But my burnt sienna, I will only use in the Winsor Newton. Every other Winsor Newton to me, or burnt sienna, seems like they put dirt in a container and they've sold it as burnt sienna. Like, it's not, to me, it's not good. And my cad orange also is a Winsor Newton. If you dilute it enough, it feels like it's very yellow. So I'll use this one as a yellow. I'll show yellow. In my yellow containers here, I have a couple of different yellows. One's cad yellow, and the other one might be a cad yellow medium. I'm not sure. I don't have a tendency to use them because I feel like when I use them, it becomes very cartoonish. I see where others use it very successfully and it looks beautiful. And I think, okay, I could try it again. And I try, and it still looks like cartoon to me. So, but those are my very specific ones. And also, I don't use this one a whole lot either, but it's cobalt violet light. And this one is the Signalier, which doesn't seem to have as much white pigment in it as the other brands. So that's why I use the Signalier in this one. I believe Soho puts out a decent one as well, and I don't think Soho is all that expensive. So I did spray this, but it looks like I need to spray it once more.
Kim, could you repeat the blues that you used, the turquoise, what was that one?
The turquoise cobalt,
Okay,
the cobalt teal.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
And I'll
thanks.
probably end up getting some iridescent in there as well at some point because I like it on this water stuff. So I am also going to mix myself up a puddle of my cad orange. I also like to use the Aussie red gold on these birds. But if you're not very careful and you get it on your hands, it looks like you're a smoker from back in the 20s. So be careful with that one if you use it. If you use it, you probably know that already. So I'm going to use my cad orange. I'm going to pick up some cerulean. Now my cerulean is the M gram, so it is very potent. You have to be very careful if you don't want it quite so pigmented. Is that the right word? Something like that. I was thinking about moving back to a different brand in my in the cerulean, and I went to use the Winsor Newton, and I compared to this one, I thought, this is such a weak color. I can't get enough paint on my brush. So I'll probably stick with the M gram on this one. And get that, this. It feels like I'm going to need a red. So I know I'll probably use a little of my burnt sienna, but be very careful about how many colors you're going to use on a painting like this, because you can get mud really, really quickly. We want to avoid that at all costs. Also, I found that doing these birds, the most important thing about them is saving your whites. And it can be the hardest thing to do, absolute hardest. So that's why I brought in all my white paint. Sometimes you have to get it back that way. So I start these off by, 1 second here, just to rearrange this just a tad. I'm at about a 45-degree angle here, and it's a little bit much because it's all gonna drip down, which I'm gonna have to just say that's gonna be okay today.
Hey, Kim,
Yes,
what size brush are you using right now?
this one is my 16.
Okay,
Yep. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a spritz. Now, I also I'm using an old Niagara Falls spray starch because it spits. I want it to spit. I don't want it to mist. I want to spit. And I don't want to get the whole thing wet. I just want to encourage movement of my paint. And I'm not really familiar with my cobalt teal, but I thought it might be a fun part of the water. We just get in here and we start splashing. If you end up with these little spitty things, we don't want that. We're trying to encourage movement here. We don't want to make the painting look like you're giving it chicken pox. That's better. And in this process, if you want to use your finger, whatever you want to use it. Don't feel like you can only use your brush. I have a little bit of this pattern of this white that I really liked on this. So I thought I would encourage some of that. And if it drips down, I don't care. I'm going to get some of my iridescent in this. These are going to be reflections that I'm painting right over their legs. So it's darker, but I'm not worried about those. And I really do want to encourage this dripping though. So I want it to feel like water. And anything that is going to be darker than the background, go right over the top of it. Don't say, oh no, that's the legs. I can't go over the legs. Yes, you can. I don't want to encourage the hard lines, so I'm just going to wet some of that. This, like I said, can get very wet, a little messy. I was going to try to do a more direct painting on this, but I just feel like it's not really conducive to that for me.
Your board is flat.
No, this was, to begin with, it was at about a 45-degree angle, and probably now it's more like at a 40. I wanted it to be a little bit more flat, but then I thought, you know what, some of these drips right here, those could be very fun, and I can encourage that. Another thing that we need to be aware of as we're laying paint down is that our paint dries, whatever they say, 20% lighter, which means absolutely nothing to me. That means when it dries, it's going to be too light, but I still don't know exactly what that means. So if I have to give it another wash over the top of whatever I'm doing, then that's what I'm going to do. Like I said, that drip is kind of fun, especially for the water situation. I'm going to have reflections in here. And one of the things that we also need to be careful of when we're doing this, I feel like I'm giving you too many rules for this when this was just supposed to be fun and splashy. But I'm only telling you what I have found in the process of this. If I get my background too busy, then I can't go that busy on my birds. If I want to be busy on my birds, then the background has got to be more calm. I think I want to do one more little stripe right through here. These may not end up looking like stripes, and that'll be okay too. Like I said, for me, when I'm doing these, every one of them is an experiment, and if it turns out great, but that's the fun, I think, of doing these. It's like a playtime. These Zoom classes have been very fun and I've enjoyed doing them, but there's a drawback to doing them is that you don't get to that real interaction with your audience. And so sometimes it feels like I'm alone. So if somebody on occasion could just, I don't know, make up a question, pretend like you're laughing at my joke, something like that, that would be great.
We're all on mute.
I know, that's why I say on occasion, somebody unmute yourself, when it seems like there's been a long silence, unmute yourself and laugh or something. Make me feel like I'm not here alone. But the other really nice thing about doing the Zoom thing is I can look at my monitor and I can say, oh, that's coming along. So as you can see, I'm adding pigment as I go along to see, because I can see that I don't have enough in certain spots. It's really feeling like waves, isn't it? How cool is that? Again, I don't really want these hard lines on the body of the bird. So I'm just going to come in here and just soften up some of this. This one should have come all the way across. Notice that I'm saying this should have come all the way across because if we don't start making these connections fairly early on, then it feels like, oh, I painted a background and then I pasted the birds on top of it. And that's not what I want to have happen here.
Hey, Kim, how big is your water bowl?
Big, 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 big.
Okay,
Because I also don't like to change my water all that often. And once I get painting, that's the last thing on my mind.
Kim?
Yes.
How wet or dry is the paper when you're going back in with
It's
additional paint?
it's pretty wet. I mean, and I keep spraying it too. You can see I have drips here. And some of this I want to also encourage that lighter line, so I can just pick it up with my brush. And if that doesn't do quite enough for me, take a paper towel. Yeah, and I have my paper towels here. I thought everything arranged right here. Right here it is. Sorry about that, you guys. So, and really the best paper towels for this is the Viva, but I can't get that here. So I have to use what they have. And like, it's pretty wet, so I should be able just to lift this up with my paper towel, just enough. I don't care if it doesn't come clear white, because I have white I can use.
Kim, do you ever use a lifting brush, like on the birds, if you wanted to get like a cleaner edge on one
I do.
side, or do you?
I have the rosemary. Get it out of the case here. There we go. I have the rosemary eradicators, in which you can get them here in the States. Place out of Texas. And I have it written down and I'll remember to tell you guys. So the eradicators have a much softer brush. They don't, they will disturb the nap of the paper. You can rub that hard with them, but you can also get a cleaner line with it if you want. I don't even know if you can see that from there, but it is cleaner. I don't really want that to be too clean. And I also use my old standbys, the scrubber brush, if I wanted to. Gives a little bit of a rougher look. And this definitely will work on the nap of your paper. So make sure you're using it right where you want it. I better put some of this here. And normally I would go at this like I'm going at the birds first. But, you know, again, there is no right way, there's no wrong way, and you can do it any way you want to do it. How's that? Like I said, I'm going to have some reflections down here in a couple of spots, so I'm not gonna mess with this too much down here.
Hi, Kim. I noticed that you don't tape your paper down, but you use the thumbtacks.
I do. That's exactly what I use, because when I mat and frame my paintings, I like to float them.
Okay.
So I have rough edges everywhere. Although I do see those and I think, oh, that's a great idea, but then you have to be able to mat and frame them a different way. For these also, well, this is drying just a little bit before I go in and work on these birds. I have gotten to the point where, and it feels like some of the shows are even allowing some of this to happen, where I've mounted them on boards. I have a wonderful stepfather who will build me these odd shaped cradle boards, and then I mount them to this. And they can be hung on a wall just like this, or they can actually have a little frame on them, and no worries. They're just fun. So I've been doing a lot of those.
You know what kind of wood he uses for those?
Whatever he can get that's cheap.
So it doesn't have to be smooth or,
Nope, not at all. You use an acrylic molding. Have you ever mounted one before?
yes, but I've done it on cradle boards that are smooth.
Yeah, these are, they're probably still pretty smooth, but I don't think they're any special wood at all. The top one is very, very thin that goes right over the top of the other pieces. And like I said,
How do you, what do you use as your bonding agent to
It
attach
is-
the paper?
and I actually have some of that with me down here. I thought maybe I'd have to do some. I use the heavy gel gloss. This one happens to be golden. This is the bonding agent. I watched videos on it and they suggest the gloss, which I don't really know why. I don't know if it has certain properties on it that encourages it. I have no idea why they suggest the gloss.
I've heard some people say that the satin has some white in it or obscures your painting a little bit. The gloss is clear, but I don't know either.
Oh, no, this is the one that you put on the back side of your painting to
Oh, okay.
bond it to the wood. The wax that you put over the top of it, if you're going to use wax, that one seems to me like it, I don't know, kind of blurs the edges. I'm not actually as fond of the wax as I am of just spraying it with an acrylic spray. So,
Like Krylon?
yes, I use the Krylon, but there are lots of people who don't use it. So I don't know if anything is one is better than the other. I don't know. Okay, and I didn't use any yellow in my water, but oh well. I don't really want to actually. So I'm going to get in here. This is where I do a lot of splashing. I gotta make bigger puddles. You have to have liquid on your brush. It has to be able to splash. So I'm going to take some of my yellow and just start dripping it. And if it gets in my water, I don't care. If it ends up in a spot I don't really want it, I can move it. I'm not concerned.
And what yellow are you using, Kim?
That one is my cad orange.
Oh, wonderful, thanks.
I'm sorry about that, you guys. I thought I had this turned off. There it is now. And I'm using all the same colors that I've already used. I want those to commingle a little bit better. So I've tipped my brush up, my board up just a little so I can get movement. And I'm going to also add a little bit of my mineral violet. I don't know why this brush is giving me these little splatter things. I don't like that. It's not the way I paint. Then I'm going to encourage it with my finger, whatever it takes, I'm going to encourage it to move. If I get too big of a puddle, I'll just pick it up. gets down in my water, I'm fine with that. In reality, I probably need to pull some of that right out into the water to help make connections between my subject and the background and all that. I think it's gonna need more. I am probably gonna have to add a little darker blue as well. I think I'm going to move over to my cat. Cobalt, excuse me, cobalt. I knew it was there somewhere. The add some of this right into my water. Like I said, we want to make these connections early on. If we don't, like I said, then you end up feeling like your bird is pasted on, and we don't want that.
Kim, because your paper is wet,
Uh-huh.
your pigment has to be thicker to avoid blooms. Is that correct?
Yeah, but you know what? If I get blooms here, I don't really care.
Oh,
Because that
okay.
will, to me, it will, it'll just say water. Or if it lands on the bird somehow, good, because then it just says feathers. That's the fun thing about doing birds and animals. Nobody will ever look at your painting and say, oh, gee, she's too bad she got a blossom there. Nobody will say it. I'm adding a little bit of my cobalt teal. I feel like cobalt teal is one of those funny colors that I'm using it a little bit too early in the process, but that's okay too. I don't, it's fine. After I've laid it down, it always feels like somehow it disappears if I try to go over it with another color. One of the things that Nancy didn't mention either, that is, I have my signature to the national. And I have to tell you, that has been one of the most difficult shows ever to get into. The first time that I got in was, let's say, 15 years ago, something like that. And then I could not get in again for the life of me. You know, I get my signature to transparent, I get it to the American. Somehow I could not get into national again. I did get my signature the first time around. That was nice. Thank you, because I don't know if I'd have it if I didn't. And then a few years ago, I got in with one of these paintings. I thought, well, that was nice of them. And see, it takes a long time for some of this stuff to dry because we're working very, very wet. I'm going to pick up some of this puddle here. And I'm going to add, I hope that you're also noticing, I have a very clean palette per se. These are my individual colors, and I'm adding them to this as I go along. I'm letting all of the mixing happen right here on my piece of paper, which is hugely important to me, especially if you want to keep your colors clean. Otherwise, you end up almost like adding mud to your painting if you don't let the mixing happen here. But again, you have to be pretty, you have to decide you're going to kind of limit your palette. Like that hard line right there. Feels like to me that this yellow just kind of brightens this up a little bit, so I can use some right here.
Is the yellow like a gamboge or an Indian yellow?
No, this is my cad orange,
Oh, okay.
cad orange.
Because it doesn't look like orange on my iPad. That's why.
It doesn't here either, believe me. That's why I think I like it. If I do any mixing, this is what I do. I pick up this, I pick up this, and let's do a little bit of that. And I set it down. See, even that got pretty muddy. And mud is okay as long as it's where you want it to be. I am gonna have to go just a little darker, I think, right through here. Just a little. I want to make just a little bit of a separation between the two birds. The other thing that makes these so much fun to do is, you know, there are always rules to watercolor. And then there are a lot of them. And you can ignore some of them, but then you can take your time and learn some of them as well. You don't have to learn every one of them at any given moment. This gives you time to think about them a little bit. When you feel like your painting is starting to get done, you look at it and you think, oh, this is where that rule comes in. Now I can go back, I can change it a little bit if I want to. Pull this all the way through here. I need more purple, I think. Mineral violet, excuse me. And you notice as I'm laying this down, I can see exactly where the point of my brush is, so I know exactly where I'm laying it down. The next painting that we'll be painting is the tiger. And when I have to decide that I need to let this dry, I'm going to take this away and I'm going to bring that out because there's a lot of stripes that have to be done. And I'm not so sure that you guys want to just sit and watch me paint stripes. Some of it, sure. All of it, maybe not. I did a demo for a place that's a regular in close to my home. And the president of that particular watercolor group he was fairly new to watercolor, and he was decided that he should tell me how to do a demo. And he thought that I should have my painting painted up, at 3 different stages, so that nobody had to sit and watch paint dry, because nobody wanted to watch paint dry. And I looked at him and I said, we're watercolorists. We want to watch paint dry. I thought that was the funniest thing ever.
Was he an engineer?
He's an architect. Almost the same difference. And like I said, you guys, sometimes these birds turn out so much fun, but painting them is so much fun. Now, here is one rule. I don't want to end this bird's tail right at this becomes a tangent. I'm going to lengthen his tail. Nobody is ever going to come to me and say that bird's tail is not that long. And if they do, I'll say, prove it. And if there are places that I can help the connection between the bird and the water, that's what I'm going to do. Lose edges. Losing edges is good. Finding them can be equally as good. I like that this little hook back here is a little blurry. And if I can encourage that to happen, great. I probably will still have to put a little more detail, but that's okay. Oh, I'm forgetting about some of my other colors over here. I've got this turquoise I need to get moving around in here too. I'm going to and I want these reflections to connect. And change your color, change your color, change your color. One of the things that I have a tendency not to think too much about is, they say that the reflection of something lighter, the reflection should be darker. And then the opposite for if your subject is dark, the reflection is light. If it's dark, then the reflection is light. I don't pay too much of attention to that. I just try to get something down here. And the other fun thing to do with these birds is when you can work out some kind of composition and you can play with it, and it's up to you what it looks like. Again, on that part of it, I don't pay too much of mind to the rules. This one happens to be 2 and 1, but I've done these with 8. I do them with 10. If you arrange it right, then you figure out how to break the rule. And just giving it a little bit of texture helps as well. It got a little too dry. Just get it wet, let it set for a minute. I feel like I was getting a little too dark too quickly. I think I can start getting some of the eyes in. Let some of this dry. Maybe. Maybe I can come down here first. I'm really trying not to go too dark on these. I can always come back and go darker. Nice thing about these brushes, you can work them. You can get in there and scrub a little bit if you need. They're just fine. time. Something here. Because I was really enjoying the dripping that was happening. This is another, I don't know, wave or something, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. It feels like it's a kind of a nice design element. And encourage it to drip some more. Now that I've done that, I'm going to do that one more time. I'll come back and reestablish this a little bit later. I have that plenty lit, so I don't even move. Okay, I can get in here now and do some of these eyes. And even though you don't see it, if you could leave just a little bit of the white of the eye, just a little twinkle in each one of them, it will read so much better. One of the things that I didn't talk about yet either is that I really do like to work from these black and whites because it enables me to decide on what color goes in here. If I looked at the color photo, I would say, oh, these are brown and these are gray and da da da. And then I wouldn't be able just to say, okay, I want to make this green instead of gray. So this helps me so that I can choose my own colors.
So along that line, now
Yeah,
that you said that, what color are you for the eyes? What are you using for your eyes?
dark, as dark as I can make it with whatever I have. This turquoise one seems to be going fairly dark, and I can add a little bit of my purple to it. So it's not nearly dark. I'm just basically putting in the shadow area here. And this is a cold press paper, so I can get a little bit of dry brush going on here, so it feels like there's a little bit of texture happening here without doing everything. Nobody wants to see a painting that is, well, I shouldn't say that. There are people out there that really want to see everything. But to me, the mystery of it is what's more fun. So if there's any way you actually can use your monitor or something to paint these, that's a great way to do it.
And then the other question I have is, I forgot, how long are we get a recording, I believe, right?
Yes, you're gonna have a recording.
And how long is that?
They talked about it for a month.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I don't know if in a month I'll even remember to turn it off. It may be up there longer than that. But it'll be at least a month. So even also, these seem like they are, let's say, quick paintings. They're not. There's a lot of thought process in this. Trying to move your colors around and make sure that every part has a piece of that same color. I'm not so sure that I don't think I have quite enough yellow going on, or the orange. And, you know, maybe I can get some in the reflections, especially and maybe through the legs. So it can't just be in one spot. You have to help it move around so that the viewer wants to continue looking at the painting. I have to come back in here with some white because I feel like I'm losing an awful lot of my whites. But we'll see. Maybe I won't. Maybe this will be my lucky day. And I don't want to have to go around the whole head with color just to say there's a whole head there. The viewer should be able to look at it and fill in the blank where I've missed a little bit. And if I'm looking at the monitor and I see it's not reading that way, then I have to change it. I know that some people feel like they're afraid to paint watercolor because they feel like they can't fix it or whatever, but there's a lot of ways of fixing watercolor. Yes, there does probably get to a point where it just can't. Realizing that that's another lesson. But there are lots of ways to fix our painting if something's gone wrong. This feels like it's too much of a separation. And not a separation, excuse me. Too much of a blurred line. Can't see enough of the bird's edge, just a little. So we take it a little step at a time. You know, the hardest thing I feel like for us to do is we are looking at one thing and we think, okay, we're gonna finish this one thing. And we don't want to paint that way. We want to keep painting everything at the same stage so that the whole painting comes together at once. And this bird's feeling like he's got too many hard edges. So I'm gonna come in here and try to loosen this up, pull some into the background. And if I have to, I'll add more of that same color on this side so that I can lose some of that, but I can't lose it at the same edge as this. Did you get that? If I do it right here, it feels like there's something wrong with the shape of the bird. I still might have to lose some of that. We'll find out. And as I'm going and we're working on the eyes, this one should be dry enough now that I can come back and work on it since I've moved over to this one. So let's work on it. And I'm not, that was my mineral violet, and I'm going to move back over here to the turquoise color. And this is still my 16. Such a nice little point on this. I'll let that rest just a little bit. I feel like maybe I have a lot of yellow up there. Maybe if I just put a little dot of this up here, it might make me feel better. But when I did that, I took away the shadow on the eye, so I'll have to come back and reestablish that. Again, I can only get dark values from dark pigment. You cannot say, oh, I'm going to try to get this dark with a yellow. You have to pick and choose. I have a towel that I keep wiping my brush on. And by the end of this day, it'll be sopping wet. The other thing, I'm sure some of you are very aware of this. Anything with eyeballs is going to be your focal point. You don't have to come in here and say, this is my focal point. Anything with eyeballs is going to be your focal point. One thing that I did like, and I wouldn't normally do this till the end, but I was really enjoying this particular shape. And I have not achieved it. So, and one more thing about that, you don't get it in the first try. I think sometimes it just feels like it may as well just give it up because it's never going to be as clean and fresh. Like I said, if you just keep moving around in your painting, it feels like things start happening, good, bad, or indifferent. They're happening. I think their beaks are a little funny because they really don't come to a point. They almost look like they're blunt. And I'm also stabilizing my hand with my pinky, if you can see that. I feel like I've lost too much of my whites and I almost filled this in and I thought, you know what, maybe not. Maybe I'll make this a little bit lower here. You guys still with me?
Yep. Do you remember which birds these are?
I think that they're called sandpipers. They're not very big, that's for darn sure. They're little. Just little. Yeah, that's too big. So I'll just loosen it up. I'll come back a little bit later and I'll fix it. I don't have to finish it this second. Then you get to a point where you feel like, okay, I gotta just think about this for a little bit. Okay, so as I'm looking at my monitor, I know my legs are not dark enough at this point, but I want to see if what I have going on is working or if it's not working. So feels like I have all my color in my birds. And so therefore I need to do some more of this. Okay, so this is just about play. It's not one of the things I think we as watercolorists do is we think every time we sit down to paint something, it's got to be our masterpiece. It's got to be this big, massive painting that is going to be our masterpiece. And it's just not true. If we could just say to ourselves, we're just going to play today and just have some fun with this, it just takes all the pressure out. And we certainly like to think that it all has to be a masterpiece. Dean Mitchell is a prime example of this. His little tiny paintings are some of his best work, and he makes thousands off of those little things. I may live to regret putting that cat orange there, but I won't know until I try it. One of these sayings that I've learned not that long ago, and it's like the best saying I've ever heard. These paintings are not precious. This is not precious. If it becomes a masterpiece, then it will be precious, but not now. So this is the time just to learn to play with it and to have a good time with it and see what happens with it. We're always going to learn something every time we pick up our brush, every single time. We can't help it. And I might decide too that that's a little bit too stripey. I liked it in the beginning, but I'm not so sure I like it now. That ends up looking like a hole in the bird, so I don't want that. It's wet. It's pretty wet. Hmm. I really want to soften this up through here and over here, and I feel like I should just leave it alone. Sometimes it's easier for me to leave these things alone when I'm painting in front of somebody than it is when I'm just alone. And I think that that's very strange, but it's the way I operate. when we come down to Costa Rica, there's always an issue with something, and it's usually our vehicle. So, yep, this time it was our vehicle. So that was my husband saying it was done.
Has Costa Rica had many hurricanes?
No, Costa Rica does not get hurricanes. We had tropical storms, but the way the wind pattern is, it blows it farther north than us. But here, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a hurricane that came all the way across the country, which was the first time that it had done it in 90-some years. We've had a lot of rain though, a lot of rain. We live in the part that's considered the dry rainforest. And so we only get, I don't know, 96 inches a year. And the other part gets a lot more than us. Okay, I might have to set this one aside and think some more before I get going anymore on it. Might be time to start our tiger. How are your guys' coming? Anybody have anything they want to show?
I'll show mine.
Okay, let me, I'm gonna unshare my screen, and I think then when you speak, it will get bigger.
Okay.
Stop sharing there. Oh, look
Here
at
we go.
yours.
So I feel like I just want to stop, and
Yes.
like some of it is too wet, like the legs I'm trying to mess with, but they're too wet, and so they're just bleeding all over the place. And I can't get this guy's beak just because it's still too wet. But
But you know what? It looks very nice. I like how you used your color all the way around. Nice job.
well, there you go. Yeah, thanks.
Watching and painting at the same time is not easy, so you did great.
Yeah, yeah. And the loose style is really uncomfortable for me, so good practice.
Great. Anybody else want to show theirs?
I'll show mine.
Let's see.
Anyway,
Hey, oh, I liked how you cropped yours off.
yeah, you know, I didn't have the 22-inch length. And so a paper, and so I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna cut it off.
Great. Nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I'll let you see one.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. It feels like to me just a little, the little lights in the eyes are a little bit too big. Push them back just a tiny, so they're just little pinpricks, but that looks great.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, nice, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll show mine then. I'll
Okay.
speak to get on
Oh,
screen.
yay, that looks great.
Okay.
Very fun. I like these, you know, they're great. They're just really fun to play with. Very fun. Anybody else? Because I can tell you guys, you trying to watch me and trying to paint at the same time is very difficult.
Hi, I'm Georgia. I'm sharing mine.
Oh, very nice. Oh, I like how you did your splatters. Nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can show mine.
Uh-huh. Oh, yay. You know, these little birds are just, they're so much fun. I never see one that I don't like, you know? If I
They
don't
are a lot of
like them,
fun, yeah.
normally it's because of a color choice, but even then, that's a personal thing. Tricia O'Neill wants to show hers.
I just did.
No, I can't, we can't see you.
Oh.
All we see is your name. You have to turn on your
Oh.
video.
I did just show it.
Oh, that was
But
you.
I'll show it
Okay, so your name came up. Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Yeah, I didn't mention in the beginning either is that chat box. There's really nobody there to monitor it. So I don't know if you guys are just talking between yourself or if you had questions.
I've been watching it, Kim.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I feel like I need to set mine aside for a bit, and so we should start on that tiger. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Kim, this is Nancy. I am back.
Oh, good.
Working. I can't show it because mine is totally too wet. At what point do you want to take your half-hour lunch? It's quarter to 12 here.
12 for your time. You guys want to take it now and we come back in a half an hour and set up for the tiger? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
It sounds
Yeah.
like a good time to break for me, so that people can get their tiger ready on their boards and et cetera.
Perfect. Okay, I'm
Okay.
going to pause. I'm going to
So-
pause our recording. You guys will still be on if you're in front of the camera, but it will not be recorded. How's that?
Oh, that's good. So if anybody wants to chat over lunch, bring your lunch to your computer and we can do that.
Yeah, I'm recording. And I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. All right, well, I think I said I wasn't going to use masking, but I'm going to very quickly get some in here. And I use a couple of different instruments. This is one of them. It has this, if you can see that there, it has a wedge on it. So I can do large parts at a time, or I can do smaller. And I'm not going to be too careful about putting it on. I want there to be a little bit of roughness going on, and but I decided I better use some because I know I have to do a background on this and I want my edge to be very, very white. But again, masking fluid is wonderful and it's awful, all in one setting. It never fails. You have to fix things. Always. There's no two ways about it, and especially since I want some of this hard edge happening through here. I don't want to have to worry when I'm doing my background. Let's see, where am I here? Here. And with this, I can use my point or I can use the flat edge. I can use both. So that's kind of the fun thing about using these, this type of brush. Mostly I want to be around this edge so that I can have little hairy marks. I was gonna start some of this without you guys because I think sometimes this gets a little bit of a much to just sit and watch, but if you're painting this with me, you can be doing this at the exact same time. Is anybody painting this with me?
I am. This is Pat. By the way, I'm using my own photo, but it happens to be an African leopard.
Perfect. That's perfect.
The spots, of course, are different, but I'm
Okay.
hoping that it's the same technique.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. Oh, I put my hand right in it. This is why you should always start on the left side and move to the right if you're right-handed, but I always forget. We have a wild animal zoo thing up by Prescott, Arizona, that they have this white tiger. And I've painted him several times. And one of them that I did not all that long ago got a very, very nice award at the Watercolor West exhibit. I think those guys are doing the yard outside and I can hear little pebbles hitting my window. But some of these little highlights are pretty important, and so I want to make sure that I get to save them.
Kim, I have a question about that. Saving the whites and using white. What do you think about white ink afterwards going in for the little tiny hairs and so forth?
You absolutely, I say, if it works for you, do it.
Do you use that?
I have never used it, but
Oh, you haven't. So you basically just sort of mask out and then
yes.
go from there. Okay. All right. Thanks.
But I wouldn't have a problem doing that. You know, there are so many things out there for us to be using now that we didn't ever have before. So it's hard to keep up with it. And then when you get accustomed to one thing, then you don't think about the other until you're maybe teaching a class and somebody comes along and says, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. it was just like the white that I was showing you guys earlier on, that the South Dakota people were using, and I love it. As soon as I get this part too, I have another instrument that I use when I am doing the whiskers, and it's a little stylist that'll give you a very, very thin line. Notice that as I'm going along the back of this tiger here, I'm not being so careful because I want there to make it feel like he's got a little hair sticking up. And the nice thing also about using this little instrument, the brush that I'm using, is that you can get like a dry brush effect. So it looks like it's leaving a dry brush, which is fun, I think. There's this. See, I always have to then say, okay, where am I? Where's this? Where's that? Okay, so with this brush on the very tip, I can come over here and I can make myself some lines, but with this little stylus, you see it better here. It comes in a packet of 3. I'm assuming you can get it only in the 3s, but you can come in here and do very nice thinner lines for some of these whiskers. And I know that these are not going to stay white, but I just want to make sure that I have these for my
And where can you get those stylists?
you
Kim?
can get them at Hobby Lobby, you can get them at Michael's, you can get them anywhere, at a hobby store per se. Like I said, I know that these are not going to stay white, but I can give them a different value after I take off the masking fluid. I'm trying to also give them a little bit different shape so that they will cross over each other and not all go in the exact same direction. Okay, I think mine's pretty good. I don't think I need to do a whole lot more. Wasn't liking the shape of that, so. And the nice thing about using these things is you don't have to hurry up and say, oh, I gotta hurry up and wash my brush. You let it dry, and when it's dry, you can just, it comes right off. And so I have to avoid those areas where I have that masking fluid. That has to be completely dry before I can ever paint on there. Now, the first thing when you're doing anything with stripes or spots or any of those types of things, the very first thing you want to do is the darkest darks. I wanted to make sure that this was on here good enough for you guys to see before I actually used my pens. And I think I'm using 140-pound arches, cold press. I used
What
to.
brush?
What?
What brush?
I'm going to use my, the small jumbo. I used to only paint on 300-pound paper. And with the cost of paper, I decided I can paint on 140. There are a lot of people out there painting on 140. And so I can be one of them. So in order to get darks, we have to make sure that we're using pigment that will go dark. So you can't say to yourself, I think I'll use maybe raw sienna and purple and blah, blah, blah. Those just do not go dark enough. And I do not use black because I think black just gets boring. If you mix your own dark, it becomes much more exciting. So I am going to use very little very little water. And I'm going to use my mineral violet. And I want my paint to be pretty thick. You know, anytime I didn't want wanted it to dry, it wouldn't. And it's been so humid here that I can't believe that these paints are drying out. Okay, so for my dark, I always use a burnt sienna. I'm putting it in the same well, but I am not going to mix this up. Oops, same well. So I'm just putting my paint in. I'm going to use my mineral violet, and I will use any and all of my blue. I know cerulean is not technically a dark pigment, but it will go dark enough. How's that? I probably already have too much water in this, so. Now, if this is not pretty right here, it will not be pretty over there. So every time I go back in to pick up more paint, I will pick up more pigment. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start over on my left-hand side like I should be, so I don't put my hand in my paint. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to lay down my black stripes, but I'm not laying it down as though it's a stripe. I want to have it a little jagged so that when I come back, it will end up feeling like hair coming from my tiger. I should have put a little bit more right through there.
So what color is that?
This right here is burnt sienna, any one of my blues, and my mineral violet.
Okay, thank you.
This is Pat. Like your line, my leopard has lighter colors, some beigey, brown, whatever.
Around
along with.
Yes, absolutely.
Do I start with the lighter color? You're starting with the very darkest. Is that
darkest. Use your darkest
first? Okay.
Yes. And like I said, I'm not coming in here and trying to make lines. I want it to end up feeling like that these will be like spots or hair, a jagged edge type. So it's not smooth. This time I'm gonna pick up my mineral, my ultramarine, just to change up what I've got going on here. Get a little bit of my alizarin right in the mouth area. It probably does not have red in it, but that's fine. I don't care. It'll end up making it feel, you know, like there's blood or from the inside of the mouth. So, which we know would be a pink or a red. And I'm going to take some of this and make some of these little dots down here. I have plenty of pigment there. Maybe not quite enough, but I will try. So like I said, I'm thinking about these as just shapes and not lines. I don't want to think about them as lines. We want to, don't forget, you want your paint to be thick.
Is this a photo of a regular orange tiger?
No, it's a white tiger. Did I
Okay.
not send you out the picture, the regular black and white of this?
I saw the black and white. I wasn't sure. I guess because of his nose, if he was golden or if he was a white tiger.
No, he is a white tiger. And this one, I probably will look a little bit at my, so this is where you get confused and you gotta take your finger and say, where am I? There's this. This goes here. But I will look at my, my color photo because I want to just make sure that whatever color his nose really is, I get it that. The rest of it, I don't care.
Now, some of the original white tigers were so inbred, they weren't healthy, but they've managed to outcross them enough that they're much healthier cats now.
Good. I have a soft spot in my heart for cats. I didn't used to until one adopted me. Boy, did I ever love him. I feel like he saved my life.
Kim, this is Nancy. I'm using my own reference. It's a tiger, but it's a tiger cub. There's a lot of, I say medium values in mine. Am I just to do the darks right now?
But his stripes are dark, right?
Yes.
Just do the stripes, very, very dark.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh. So if you see if your drawing is incorrect, paint it right. Don't just say because I have these lines here that I have to do this. The first time that I was doing something like this, I was trying to do it. I think it was a cheetah. I swear it looked like that thing had chicken pox. Be careful where you stick your finger. I'm doing quite often, so that's why I say from experience, let me tell you. How you guys doing? You guys must all be very, very busy.
Concentrating to get the stripes in the right place.
You see me using my finger?
I do.
Now, don't be like a perfectionist with this, because we're gonna have to come back in here and reestablish these anyway. Lots of them. And then, of course, we have to wait for it to dry. I gave him ever so slightly bigger pupils, because if we don't, they have a tendency to look like they're going to attack and eat. How are you guys coming? This one spot on mine is about the only thing that's not dry. Probably maybe. But are you guys with me? You want me to move on now? Or am I waiting for you?
What did you use for the red part of his nose?
I used a little bit of raw sienna and alizarin crimson. I'm even gonna add just a, what was that? I'm gonna add a little bit of my cobalt violet light. Gonna brighten it up just a tad. So you ready for me to move on? Anybody that's probably not painting, you guys are probably a little bored, so I'm gonna move on.
Good. Yes, we're ready.
Okay, all right. I am going to, because my tiger is not quite dry, I'm going to start on his background and hopefully move right into him. I want to make sure the parts that I actually can paint on him. I don't want any of that to go away. All right, so first off, I'm going to clean up my dark stuff. So I'm pretty well done with that. And because I always like to make it feel like he's like in the wilderness, I have a tendency to make his background blue and green. But these parts that are white have to have something behind him in order to show that he's white. So I'm going to make another executive decision. I am going to this time use a little bit of my serpentine green, some cerulean, and I do believe I'm going to use some of my cobalt teal. One of the things that I truly like about the serpentine is that it has little red flecks in it. So when I do a portrait, it works out really well. And I'm going to move this right into him where I know I have dry paint. That way I'm establishing that he is part of this painting. We're going right over the top of what we've just painted. I'm going to take, I think I'll take a little bit of my raw sienna and mix it in here with what I already have, just to change up my color a little bit. And again, I'm letting all of my mixing happening right here on my piece of paper. Do this. It's not really what it shows, but I don't care. I don't want this to pool down here. I'm gonna even take a little bit of my mineral violet. These colors are pretty washed out. They're just showing, he's a white guy. I mean, you know, that's all I care about, that it shows, is that he's white. But white is never truly white. So we have to say he's in shadow, and so that's up to us to figure out how to do that. Went right over his eye.
Are you using the purple there because it's warmer and closer to his eyes?
I'm not even thinking about warm and cool or any of those things. I am using my purple in the ears because it does have more warmth to it, and it I want it to feel like there's a blood flow. Like I said, this is very watery, so I'm laying it on here. I don't want to, I really don't, I'm not trying to disturb the black washes that we've done, the black stripes, but I do want it to disturb it a little, just a little. Because what's happening is these should disturb just enough to make it feel like they're pieces of hair. I'm rinsing my brush off only because I'm picking up some of that dark and I don't want to move it to the next spot. This the serpentine and my mineral violet, if you mix it just like I'm mixing, makes a beautiful, beautiful color. But if you mix it in your well, it just makes mud. think I might have laid this piece down in the wrong spot. I think it was supposed to be here. Well, we live and learn. I'm coming back and just doing, there's a very, very light difference in value right through here. And I wanted to just establish that as being, that that's part of his face. So let's set all that. I still have to come over here and do something. This is a great place to connect right here. And again here. If I need to, towards the end, I can come in here and change that. We have to go around the ears because those are white. And the top of his head is white. And the only way to show those things as white is to paint it, paint around it. Do this because I don't want it to settle down and make it look as though there's a halo up on the top of his head. And because I have this at a diagonal, that's exactly what's going to happen. I love to be able to leave white in my background, but when you've got so much all the way around him that's going to be white, we have to be careful with that. I'm gonna turn it back around because I can see it's running down the bottom. Now, you see all of these places where it's run and all that kind of good stuff. We don't care about that right now. It's all fine. Again, these little places where we have blossoms, we don't really care about those either because it ends up just looking like fur. We have other things that we're gonna come in here and do, and so it'll all be fine. I hate doing all these little hairy things in the ear. So if I can make it as much abstract as possible. Oh, I'm just thrilled when that happens. You see, it's hard to tell because we have so much, I have so much masking fluid on here for the whites. Because there's always one other place you can always go that's dry. So you're not always working in the wet. If you keep moving around your painting, that's exactly what like that. You just keep working in the dry spots. It's just a little bit of texture. And this feels too light. So I'm going to work on the eyes very quickly here so I can get those in. Excuse me. I don't really know what color they are, and I'm looking at the color picture over here on a different iPad. But they look like they're kind of green. And then there's some blue in there. And then some green. And I will have to come back here with just a little bit of a light for his, to show he has a little sparkle in his eye. I know if for as much pain as I feel like I have on here, his nose on my monitor was way too light. So we have to work on that. So I am laying down some color, and then I will come back and change my shape. I'm taking just a little bit of my burnt sienna and adding it to some of this. I'm looking at the monitor and it's telling me where I really need more value and where I need to change certain shapes. I think Nancy made mention that everybody wanted to hear about how to do a background. And, you know, it's like the mystery of the universe. If you don't put out a background as you're painting, then nobody knows. I mean, it definitely is a mystery at that point. If I painted this whole thing without a background and I got completely done with him, I would be at a loss. I would think, oh, gee, that looks good. I think I'll leave it. And so there is no real answer other than just work at it as you go along. And painting tells you what it needs. We knew I had to have a background here. We knew I had to have a background there. It was the only way to do it. I can't show that these edges are white if I don't have something around these white parts. But I never want them to look like a halo. So that's why you're always watching me pull it away, or I'm pulling it in, one way or the other. A nice secret is if when you want to push something back, get a very, very light wash of your French ultramarine and do just a light little wash right over the top of that area that you need to push back. Like I said, we know that this is all going to dry lighter. That keeps focusing. There we go. That should take care of it. So, am I right, Nancy, that we have about 25 minutes? Is that right? Or an hour and 25?
Hour and 25.
Okay, good. Perfect. I was like, wow, that went way too fast. So, as we let this dry, whoops. What the next step is, as yours is drying, you mix up again your very dark darks and come back in here and reestablish. Now, where somebody was saying where they had the very dark rings, now what you probably want to do, because the other rings have been filled in with some of this color, what you want to do is go back in and reestablish those darks again. And I know it feels like I still have places here that are not quite dark enough. And I'm just going to figure those things out as I go along. It looks to me like where I have little specks of light and these little darks, it makes it look like he's got little jaggy teeth. But where I can start making my shapes right, by putting in a few of these darks, that's what I need to do. So I can see where I'm at, what I'm doing.
Kim, is it possible to move your painting up so we can see your palette and
The whole thing?
I don't know Yeah, so we can see what you're putting in there or what you're mixing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, I can tell you the things that I'm liking and not liking about this. If that would help you with your own, I'd be happy to. Have, I know on my photograph, and in the actual real photograph, you see it much better than you do on this black and white. But this shade right through here is somewhat bothersome to me. And I know that this piece comes down here, but it feels like there's too much of a variation in the value to make it feel good. And I probably really need to wait for it to truly dry to figure out where to change it. And then this portion over here is not dark enough for what I have going over here. I realize too, you guys, that this is usually about the point where somebody says, my painting is so ugly. But don't say that to yourself. This painting is not finished. I don't know if it will turn out beautiful or ugly or mid. I don't know that. And so don't talk to yourself about if your painting is not good right now. We're still painting, okay? This paper can take a lot of abuse. So don't start thinking, I'm gonna stop. This is the part where you say, nope, I'm giving it more. I'm gonna do more, more, more. So do that. Think those ways instead of, oh, time to quit. I won't know until I have off my masking fluid. All I can do is just keep playing with it until I feel like this paper can't take anymore. I can't take anymore. I want to go over this area right here before I put any more of that dark in. So you see me laying it down and then I'm changing my shapes to something that's a little bit more pleasing. Every time I lay this down, I think, oh, I've got the good value. And that usually should be my sign that says, nope, you need to make it darker than. If it looks right now, then it's too late. I was feeling like I have a lot of the same color, so I'm picking up some more of my cobalt teal and just moving it around. So if I lay it in one spot, it has to be in more than one spot. That's all there is to it. Evaluate as you go along. Something too light, something too dark. I may have to change this spot right here. As much as I like it, it's not really working. But I'm going to save it for a little later. You guys are awfully quiet. Did you guys fall asleep?
I, for one, am just concentrating.
Maybe I should have everybody go off mute so I can hear somebody.
I have a question. This is Mary Sue.
Oh,
If
good.
you were painting an orange tiger instead of a white tiger,
Uh-huh.
would you do the same thing? Would you
Yes.
do the
Yes.
orange layer first
No.
and then mask it out?
No. I do the
Or
black
would you put it in
stripes and then I go
mask
up in.
stages?
Yep. And that's-
So it's the same technique, except it would be over a color.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If you go on my website, I think, I'm sure you'll see a red, an orange tiger.
So Kim, why do you start with the black and not start with the orange and then paint black over it or the white over it?
Because this way, all these little stripy things become part of the tiger. If you do it the other way around, it looks like you have an orange cap with black stripes that have been painted on it. That makes sense?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yep, that was it. I just said yes.
Yeah, because believe me, that was what I figured out when I did the cheetah. It was not good.
So Kim, when you do your portraits, do you do the same with clothing? You do
No,
the dark values first and then
no.
what do you do there?
I actually have a couple of different ways I do it. I'll start out with a very light glaze and I'll build on the glazes. And then other times I will only paint what isn't in sunlight.
Only paint what isn't, okay.
Not in sunlight. So everything that would be in shade. That would be what I would paint.
And what are you doing inside the ears? Is that the purple to warm it up or is that illusion?
Well, it feels like it looks like blood right now.
Yeah.
See, you're not supposed to talk that way to yourself. You're supposed to be saying, self, this is all coming together. I was trying to put in these little highlighted things, where he's got hairs on his ear and without painting hairs.
But inside the ears, what is that color? What
Oh, I
hairs are
have
you-
a little bit of alizarin. I put in a little
Okay.
bit of raw sienna, and in where it feels like there should be a hole, I have put in mineral violet.
Okay,
So it feels like it goes down into his ear.
right.
See if that works. This thing right here, I keep looking at it as if it's the eye. So that means I need to change it. Or to make his eye really more obvious. I still don't like the shape. You change one little thing on your painting, you change a whole bunch of other things. So be very careful about what it is that you are going to change. And notice as I'm going back over and reestablishing some of these darks, I'm not coming in here and doing, oh, one's a little straight. I'm trying to make my what I'm laying down is very uneven. Sometimes, and it could probably be because normally I would have more of a dry time on this. You don't have quite this much lifting.
This is Nancy. My problem is my darks are really lifting.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting mud.
Okay, so that means you need to let it dry. So
Oh, okay.
stop for a little bit and let it dry. If we were in a classroom, I'd say, go make a friend. See, all of these, Nancy, look at my own. All of these little dark spots completely went away. And so I will come back in here after this dries again and get some of this wet and just loosen it up a little bit. And you see with my brush, I'm taking my brush and doing this to it so that I can come in here and make without feeling like I'm getting too detailed in certain areas. Yep. As much as I love this spot right here, I have to change that. I love that color, but sometimes it just does not love me. I can even go a little darker on my background.
Kim, is that a combo of serpentine and ultramarine?
Of cobalt.
Oh, cobalt, okay, thank you.
Yes. That already feels better, I think. always continually evaluate your shapes. So as I'm looking at this, this didn't feel quite right, but it feels like I lost a little bit of this shadow underneath his bottom lip. And it has been making this beard feel like it's off whack, and it may be off whack, but this should have been changed first. This also feels like it's a bit of a dirty color to me. So I'm just going to come back and do this. And this feels like now it's the only part that I have green on his body. So
Hi, Kim. This is Trish.
hi.
I have a question for you. Do you do much plein air painting?
No. When we go to the beach, I love to take my stuff down there and I play with it. I'm not very good at it, but you know what? As long as I have a good time, who cares? That's how I feel.
Thank you.
Mhm. I wish I were much better at it, but you know, you can only be good at so many things, right? I have a feeling that mine is just about at the spot where I really need to just let it dry before I can take off my masking fluid. Anybody else feeling the same? No?
Kim, can you hear me?
Yes.